Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast. Round 4, done and dusted. Means only one thing. It's our review show for another week. Myself and Jake along for this one. Plenty to discuss. Plenty of upsets. Some wet weather footy. It could have been very dour weekend, but it must be said that some very entertaining football. Some off games, some great games, a bit of everything mixed in, some news, some huge talking points. So tonight promises to be a really big episode, a great episode. We are ready to rip and tear. Jake, welcome, mate. Big weekend of footy. Back again for another week.
Yeah. No, it's big round of upsets this week. Very exciting football played, and you know what? It's good to see.
Shit.
Mate, yeah, something different. Maybe the teams that are up on the ladder have a chance of, not being so high and mighty this year. It shows that they can be beaten.
Yep. No,
it's
nice. There is so much to talk about. We'll get into it shortly. We're going to do game by game tonight, guys, because there's that much to talk about. Upsets galore, so start giving some of these other teams a bit more respect and things like that as well. I just want to cover a lot more and get into more detail with you, especially with the two of us, and there's no Supercoach side of things anymore. First of all, before we get into things, because I know this will come up probably a number of times throughout the episode, and I don't want it to. I want to focus on the games, the players, the coach, the storylines, all that. But I want to touch on something first, and it's got to do with the officiating. I put a post out there, and it's been a lot of people have been saying a lot in it. It's been going off. I love it. Thank you, everyone, again, who's following our social media accounts. If you haven't already, you're listening to this, go across to all of them. You see them either if you're watching down on the screen there. If you're listening, you get your Facebooks, Instagrams, TikToks, all of the like. Make sure you are following, subscribing, liking, getting involved in the comments section as well. But I'm very confused, Jake, and to be honest with you, I'm over it. I'm going to list some points at the moment that I've made from just the last week or two alone, and I know this goes deeper into the year. And look, we can go wherever we want with this. But first of all, players making direct contact with the head and staying on the field, as well as not getting suspensions. I, for one, have always thought we've cracked down on this. As soon as direct contact is made with the head, that is a sin bin, no questions asked. And there's a suspension involved as well, at least two weeks. We're seeing now players not getting a sin bin, getting on report by multiple games this weekend, and already with judiciary charges, players not getting suspended. Like, I don't know where we've gone all of a sudden if we're going back a few steps, but I just think it's horrible. We have to see other sports and people keep saying how the American football do it and deal with it. We've got to start shaping up with this because this can become very serious and already has. The referees and officiating need to crack down and continue to do so because it feels like it's starting to creep back in. Players a bit looser, shoulder charges, things like that. Start cracking down on it. Start suspending the players because it's leaving us, the fans, as confused as ever. Clear foot on the sideline being missed. We all saw the photo, and that was part of the post that we did do in the Broncos game. I think it was Selwyn Cobbo clearly had his foot on the sideline. The touch is direct, looking down, seeing it, nothing said. And we've got the bunker. We've got the bunker there to rule on things. Like, I'm sorry, but that's a huge moment in a game. That could be a huge momentum turner for the Dolphins to get a full set of 6 down in the 10-meter line or so, get a try, see what they can do. And there's no reason why the bunker can't see that and a play or two later go, ref, stop the game, go back, award the play the ball to the Dolphins and go from there. So that really pisses me off because they're big momentum-changing calls. Clear tries being called no tries and clear no tries being called tries. And this is from the bunker. I don't know what the bunker is doing, and it's clear in a lot of their voices who do it. They are so nervous. It's not funny. But they don't know it feels like they don't know what they're doing anymore. And there's almost stages where some of them are guessing because we are sitting at home and we've got our chats going and all that, and everyone has their chats now going. That's why we love this game. And that we cannot all be wrong. There was a number of tries. Like, I'm a Para fan, but there is no way in the world Joe Offengawi scored that try today. Absolutely no chance. And then I go back to the Roosters game. I think it was White. He scored that try. every day of the week. Absolutely scored that try, and they're ruling it was a lost ball. He planted the ball down, which then flicked out from his hand because of the pressure. Seriously. Refs losing control of the games. It's really becoming apparent to me there's a number of referees, and I don't want to name them, can't control a football game. Literally, there was games on the weekend. There was one last night. We're talking the Dogs Sharks, where the referee warned this goes again after a push and shove. If this happens again, there'll be people sitting down to cool off and let's get this game back under control. Literally, the next tackle, it went off again and nothing was done. Nothing was said. Nothing. It's just whatever. How can you think you can control a game as a referee or an official if literally you're not going off your word? Players are literally taking you for a ride. And unfortunately, sorry to say and break it to you, they know it. They're probably going into games knowing what referees they can push, and they're doing it every single time. And it makes for a really annoying game to watch. It makes it harder to watch all this. And it's just infuriating as a fan of this game. The last point, games being officiated completely different. I'm going to go back to last week's game. So Storm versus Penrith, everything that was last week, getting away with absolutely everything in the ruck. Both teams, especially the Storm, everything in the ruck got away with it. I fast forward a few days later and we watched Manly versus the Raiders, and everything was caught up. Everything to almost a mirror that was happening in the Storm Penrith game was getting either 60 goes or penalties. And I'm sitting there going, hang on, they probably just watched that happen 2-3 nights ago, and they think, all right, sweet, let's go out there and get it done and do similar. Look, that's we're going to free-flowing game. Perfect. And it's completely different. How can we have a game which is like professionally run and they have to go and do video work and meetings all throughout the week? They're full-time and we're getting these wrong. Jake, as I said at the start of this, I am confused as ever, and I'm at the stage where I'm really, really over what we're watching and have to sit through as fans of this game.
Well, I think a lot of the fans are with you, to be honest with you. Like, just from general chats and sort of talking to the people around that are other fans of the game, I'm feeling like a lot of that being reflected, the same idea is kind of being reflected. Like, even some going as far as to say, like, there must be some sort of rigging. I'm not saying this is me saying this, but saying that there must be some sort of rigging in the NRL. Like, it can't be that bad. They can't be that incompetent that it's not rigged into some capacity or something like that. Again, not my views, but yeah, like, they get paid a good stack of money. Like, they're on a good packet kind of thing, pay wise. And like you said, they train every week. It's like, imagine, like, same thing as players. They're training every week. They're going back and they're doing video work on the things and going, oh, I should have done this or I should have done that. Okay, so why aren't they doing that the next week? You're absolutely right. Like, there isn't much I can add to it. I agreed with all the points that you sort of had there. Biggest one being, like, the differences between weeks and the same referee coaching differently even between games kind of thing. I just think that that's inexcusable. Different referees maybe coach, like, refereeing slightly different to each other. Well, they're different human beings, so they're going to pull things up that they, some little niggly bit things or whatever they might pull up that others won't or whatever. That's different. But like the same referee refereeing a completely different style the next week, you're never going to know what you're going to get. So it's not feasible to the players kind of thing, because then they don't know what to expect and what to do to react to certain situations, and how much they can kind of get away with and stuff like that. So yeah, I think a lot of the fans I'm talking to have kind of just said, like, I'm a bit over rugby league recently with the referees and stuff like that. Like, usually when they say it, they're not saying it's because of the players. They're saying it's because, they're just not enjoying the refereeing in games and stuff like that, and it's making the games hard to watch. And I mean, I get it. Because I'm the same. Like, I'm still enjoying watching rugby league, but sometimes I'm like really sitting there, like, having to, stop myself from swearing. Mrs. doesn't like swearing, so I have to stop myself from swearing out loud just because I'm seeing these referees. Like, oh, mate, yeah. I'm just seeing this, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. You're paid well more than most people to do one job. Like, it is like, some kids can referee better than you. I don't know. It's just.
And the thing is, there's a small minority out there who will go, oh, you can't bag the refs, and like without the refs, there's no game, and we know that. We're not disrespecting the refs, but my whole argument, whenever this gets brought up, they are professionals now. We've moved on from 40 years ago, where this was a guy coming off the street, basically refereeing a game, helping the game out. These guys are full-on paid professionals and paid very well, mind you. They should be getting it right. If the coaches have to wear it, the players have to wear it, so do these guys. They're not immune to criticism, and I'm sorry to say their performances are just not up to scratch. And this is our premium competition, the premium rugby league competition in the world. It needs to be fixed. It simply needs to be fixed. It needs to be a huge makeover. I said it in the post the other day, and I'm calling for it again. And who knows? Maybe someone from NRL will finally listen to this and the fans and start sharing around, letting your voice be clear, because there is a real makeover needed. But let's get into the footy. Let's. Oh, sorry, go.
I was going to say the biggest thing I think that needs to be changed if we're going to do some sort of big overhaul in the referee system and everything is get rid of anything where it's interpretation based. There shouldn't be interpretations. There should be rules, clear rules, where if this thing happens, this is the result, and there's no getting past that. That way, if a referee makes a wrong call, well, okay, you've made the wrong call based on a specific, like, this is what has to happen, as opposed to, oh, I thought it went this way, it might have gone this way. Like that doesn't. They have enough. They have too many rules that are based on interpretation. That shouldn't be, because everyone's interpretation is different, and that's just not the right way to referee it. Like you said, a premium sport.
And people might be listening to this going, "Oh, complete overhaul. We've got to change the rules again." I'm not talking about the rule. I'm talking about people in the in certain places, the boss of the referees. I'm talking the bunker. Like as I said at the start, like they're sounding nervous as all hell, making decisions and stuff. They should be confident. They should be knowing exactly what they're doing. Like, for instance, if I'm in the bunker, I feel like I know rugby league extremely well, and I'm confident that if I see it, I'm seeing it on my TV screen, I know the call, and I'll be going on the mic and saying so-and-so has grounded the football or hasn't grounded the football. Off they go, and they just sound extremely like they're unsure half the time, and that's just not good enough. We need to be getting these guys who train every week, paid, professional, and giving the right views. But again, let's do our best now to not involve these guys anymore for the podcast. We've got it out of the way. It needed to be done. We've done so. We've done the first one for the year. There'll probably be another one or two that we will do at some point for sure. But let's talk South Sydney defeating the Penrith Panthers 28 points to 18. And it's a crazy thought, Jake, but there was a point there, and I had a couple of messages started to come through to the page saying, I think you're going to put the Panthers onto the list. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, I'm going, you know what? I'm nervous because I respect the Penrith Panthers so much, but the way Rabbitohs started that game and it got to 28-0 at one stage just before halftime, I'm thinking, I don't know if I can see a way back for Penrith. Like it was all the Raiders, the Rabbitohs, all the Rabbitohs. But the credit to the Penrith Panthers, they did come back into it. Also, it was the Leota try. Moses Leota was the one that got that disallowed try, which was a try, in my opinion, every day of the week. They got that wrong, and that's a huge momentum changer once again. Who knows? If that gets scored, Penrith were coming home strong. It could have been a game. I liked how, as soon as Brad Snyder came on the second half, they were a completely different side. So I feel like he's going to be in the halves this week, halfback for sure. Probably partnering Jack Cole, and that's probably the best way to go about it. Poor Tolau had a nightmare of a night, wasn't quite there. Even Dane Laurie at the back for Penrith, they really missed Dylan Edwards' organisation of the defence, but also how safe he is. They put those bombs up, whether it's wet, whatever, he just catches 99 out of 100 of those. So, Jake, your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Dane Laurie, to be fair, had a bad night, but we know he's a better player than that. He's a better player than what he put out there. Like you'd name him again at fullback next week because he had a stinker. Yeah. He had a stinker, but he's a better player than what we saw out there. It is what it is. I was just thinking about your comment on the adding them to the list, and if I'm being honest with you, I would have this. I know I don't want them to win another comp, but like because of how likely it is with all their players coming back and stuff like that, I would have liked for them to get 50 put on them and win the comp this year, so that we can finally put to bed that stupid, you get 50 put on you can't win the comp. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Quality content.
I understand that. No, don't get me wrong. I understand that, currently it is the rule. Like it hasn't been beaten, and I get that that's the way it is. I'd like someone to beat it so it doesn't exist anymore, because I just think it's just such a farce. Because I hate the idea that, oh, you've had 50 points put on you round one. Well, your season's over. I hate that. And that being an Eels fan, it did happen to us. So that obviously doesn't make me feel great. But and look, our season's over anyway. But yeah, I don't like the fact that a team gets 50 put on them by round 5, and no, our season's done. We're cooked. I don't like that chat.
Yeah.
As for I was just going to say, as for yesterday, I think that that disallowed try, not that we'll go too deep into it, could have absolutely changed the momentum. Thursday could have absolutely changed the momentum 100%. Like they were on a comeback run, which is still very impressive considering how far down they were at the end of the half.
Yeah.
Like it's still great. It's still a great comeback, come from behind. I know they didn't win, but without a lot of their leading players, that's still pretty impressive.
Yeah. Are you? Let me ask you about the Panthers first. Are you worried about them?
Nah, not at all. Look, you guys know how high I am on Dylan Edwards. I think that his work rate out the back and his safety is just almost unmatched in the NRL, just for pure safety and just pure hard work off the back, and what he provides for a platform for the whole team to work off, kind of thing. And we all know what Cleary can do. Cleary wasn't there, so their attack stalled a little bit. Like Dane Laurie had a stinky day. Yeah, look, they've lost 3 in a row now, 2 in a row.
3 in a row. First time since I think 2019.
Yeah, they've lost 3 in a row. They've lost 3 in a row. Big whoop. We're in round 4. We know what they can do. They've gone seasons almost undefeated plenty of times. And you know what? As soon as they have their main men back, they're going to do it again. I will say this. Look, I'm not going to question him. He's won 4 premierships, so he obviously knows what I'm talking about more than I do. What he's talking about more than I do. But why is Paul Alamotti on the wing? He is a center. He's a center. He's a center. He's a center. Why is he on the wing? He's built like a center. He plays like a center, and he won a grand final playing center. Why is he playing on the wing, man? Explain that to me.
I don't know. And you're obviously questioning Ivan Cleary there. And again, he's coached. He's done premierships. We all know he's kind of end up, once he finishes his coaching career, go down as one of the greatest coaches we've ever seen. But there's been some calls the last few weeks that have made you start to go, not that is he losing it, because I don't want to disrespect him, but just you go back and just think to yourself, what is going on here? Like Talangi from mine last week had a great game against the Melbourne Storm and then didn't even get picked in this game. Granted, I gave Schneider a massive rap for the second half, but that doesn't take away from the first half where they were rubbish. They had a playmaker there, unfortunately, Talau, who was just looked out of his depth by some way against the Rabbitohs. So, and then Talangi wasn't even in the team in the end. Like he didn't even make the bench, which I just think was crazy. Like I don't know what that message is getting sent to Talangi, who I feel for a little bit. Obviously he's had his surgery, things like that, but again, he didn't show any signs last week of trying to get away from defensive workloads or anything like that. And again, it was the Melbourne Storm who have probably the best edge attack in the comp, and he withstood majority of it. So I'm just a bit confused with what Cleary's thoughts are at the moment, because the only thing you might question this year for Penrith, yet when they've got their full strength team, there is no doubt in my mind they'll go as I said last week, all they need to do is make the top 8. And if they do that, they can literally win the comp from 8th. I wholeheartedly think I'll pick them as well. If they just make the 8, I'll pick them to win the comp wherever they are. I think they've got that experience, but they've got to start to worry a little bit because their depth for mine is showing slight signs that it's been so good for so long. It's been picked apart for 3 years now. Like it's going to happen. But this is the first sign that I feel like their depth is, you've gone, oh, hang on. Like there is a sign there where you go, like at the moment, if I'm versing Penrith, I don't feel as daunting now, obviously next week, because Cleary's back, you're going, oh, hang on, like that's different. But now,
and
without
Edwards
Cleary,
too,
Edwards is huge. If you had still had those players out, you'd have the Luais and you'd have the Fisher Harrises, you'd have Taruba, you'd have all those players. You go, oh crap, I still don't want to verse Penrith. But now you're like, I backed myself here, and that's sort of looked like Rabbitohs' mindset. It's like how dominant the Rabbitohs were to start that game just showed me that intimidation factor at the moment has sort of gone away a little bit. And that's something that Penrith have held for 4 years pretty much now. And that's the slight concern if I'm the Penrith Panthers that I need to make sure and ensure this weekend against the next weekend, I should say, I'm making a statement to the rest of the competition. I'm coming out and I'm not taking the foot off the gas, whether we start on fire or not. I'm putting a score on them and I'm showing to the comp, you better make sure you start fearing us again because we're still here.
That's it, honestly. The Rabbitohs, you can't put it down to the fact that, Panthers had players missing, but it doesn't matter. They're still the team that's won the comp 4 years in a row. I don't care how many players they've got out. They're the team. They've won 4 comps in a row that's never been done. And you beat them, you've had a successful win. You've had a big win, right? I thought that after the Roosters did it, they'd come out the next week firing. They didn't. Storm, as we know, were always going to be able to do that the next week and sort of continue that, except that they didn't. So actually, you know what? I'm going to tip against the Rabbitohs next week. I've just learned. I just thought about it in my head, mate. Rabbitohs, they're not winning next week, unfortunately, because it's a pattern.
You get two up against the Premier, 4-time Premiers.
Yeah,
So the Bunnies,
win against
they were sensational. I thought, again, their start to the game was great. They did just look like they were hanging on in the second half. But honestly, if you're going to front load your energy, that's the prime example of doing so because they did it. They hung on in the end and they got the 2 points. And that's all that matters. That just looks like such a Wayne Bennett coach side now. And it's just, I remember we put our ladder prediction out and we, obviously granted it was just before the big news of Latrell going down and Cam Murray going down, and everyone bagged us in the end and go, oh, you got the Bunnies still in the 8, blah, blah, blah. I'm glad I've still got him in the 8 because they've shown since, they're going to probably still be thereabouts. They'll play finals football, and who knows what team will get come the finals. But just a quick question around the Bunnies. Jai Gray, I thought so far this year has been one of the best players in the competition, form-wise. He's been sensational every week, up to all his assignments, doesn't miss a beat. And always there on the ball, which is a modern-day fullback. Latrell Mitchell is rumoured to be back next week, which is huge for the Bunnies. What do you do? What do you do with the two?
Well, I already know that Wayne Bennett's come out and said Latrell's going straight back into fullback, but I just think Jai's getting so hard done by, isn't he? Because he's just doing so well. And they're winning games without Latrell, and obviously you're not going to not put Latrell in because he's a freak. But I think you'd almost move him back to the centers. I really would love to see him back in the centers. But then, even especially while he's out, even just for a temporary, to maybe see how it goes, kind of thing. And then if it's succeeding, you'd almost shift Campbell Graham maybe onto the wing. But speaking of, I'll say this: how good was Ravalawa, mate? Holy! You see him? He took, I believe, 20 runs. Hold on, 22 runs for 201 meters. Freaky performance from him.
Worked his backside off.
Yeah, we know he's got it in him. He doesn't always have those performances, but he needed to pull that out against the Panthers, and he did a good job.
Yeah. No, I think it was sensational. It'll be interesting to see what happens because I just think, and I know Latrell's Latrell, he can literally win, and we've seen it before, he can win games on his own. He can just be quiet for 75 minutes, and that last 5 minutes go, all right, let's win this game, and does it, and we know the quality he has. But I just feel for Jai Gray because he's such a he's worked so hard, and I'm always a big advocate in these players. If they get a chance and they do well, they keep the jersey until they have a poor game, and then you go, all right, you've had your poor game, and bring in the player. But it's Latrell Mitchell, and there's not many Latrell Mitchells in the comp.
No,
I would.
There's only one Latrell Mitchell in the comp.
Yeah, I'd put Latrell at fullback. I'd have Jai Gray at 14 though. I'd make sure he's in the team.
But where do you put him? With Jai, when he comes on, what do you do with him there? Because I don't feel like he suits a 14 role. I feel like he can only play fullback, or maybe on the wing if you needed.
Well, I'd reassess how the game is going, and I'd potentially, at some point in the game, put Jai Gray to fullback and have Latrell go into center or something like that. Just seeing how the game is going, and then have a 2 fullback rotation going. But yeah, as I said, I just feel hard done by because. For mine, Mamazillis has shown he's a 80-minute hooker. He's doing really, really well. So you wouldn't even play. You don't need to carry out that second hooker on the bench at the moment. No. So it allows them. There's even going to be games that perhaps Jai Gray doesn't come on the field at all. But I just think he deserves that first grade jersey and just to be there. You never know. Latrell, with perhaps an injury history, might go down early in the game at one point, and you've got him on the bench there to help him out. The next game there, the Roosters against the Titans. So the Titans got up 30 points to 12. Many believed it was an upset. My tipping certainly believed so, unfortunately, even though I tipped them on air last Tuesday. Sorry, guys. I then changed it because I've completely forgot on air that Keeney wasn't playing. So I thought that was enough to have the Roosters at least slight favourites. So I picked them, and then I should have kept with my gut, kept with my initial. Never change a tip is what I've always said, and I did it, and I got punished for it. Titans, but Jake looked very good in terms of it was an actual like proper NRL football performance where not everything went their way. They didn't start the best. They sort of went with them, but at the same time, like they just sort of rode with the contest and just ran over the top of them towards the end of the game. They've got they looked a lot fitter than the Roosters in poor conditions. It would have been a lot of players gassed out there, but they just were the fitter team in the end. And I thought AJ Brimson and Campbell really stood up when they needed them to the most, and that's a credit to. I've always had question marks over their halves and how they're going to control things. They sort of got a big tick in my opinion in that game.
Oh, absolutely. The big thing we talked about over the offseason was how strong of a forward pack they were going to have. And then when trials came around, they didn't demonstrate what we expected to see off them. Like they just looked unfit. They looked like they weren't putting much effort. But at the same time, we've sort of talked about it. You can't trust the trial game. You can't. It means nothing. It really never means anything. Because you know what? Even in that first game when they came back, they looked good. But you can tell they've even just been building each. Like I know it's only been 3 games so far now, but they built the next 2 weeks and they just look better and better so far. Big Tino's an absolute freak. But what you just said with the halves is interesting because I agree. I think it's a bit funny because the rest of their pack has the potential to either play a real rigid style if needed, and they can defend or they can attack in a real rigid structure if that's what they need to do. But at the same time, if they need to turn it on, they can be a really exciting team. And you've got 2 halves who can really do that. You've got 2 halves who are just especially it's real weird in the NRL. A tendency to have a fullback go into a halves role and succeed just seems to happen a lot. Just because it's such a similar kind of idea, I guess. Usually you have to work in your kicking game and stuff like that. But I didn't expect for the experiment to be going as well as it is. I think they definitely stick with it. And once, because Foran, I don't believe Foran was back over the weekend. No, he wasn't. When Foran is back, having him as a 14 for if they do need to sort of either fix up the structure or go into a more attacking, whatever they need to do from him, he'll just come on and he'll just I think what he would do is really steady the ship in a game where they might be losing or something like that. I think it's going to be a really potent team. They're going to be a very strong team this whole year. Actually, I think, to be honest with you, I think they're a team that you cannot go up against thinking you're going to win. So you got to hope you're going to win, but you can't go in and go, this will be an easy match.
Yeah. No, I agree with everything you said. I think that forward pack in itself is going to win the Titans a lot of games this year, which is going to be very, very interesting to watch over the year. On the Roosters front, really poor in the end. Just ran out of puff. One player I just want to give a quick shout out. So I don't want to spend too long on the Roosters, but Nafahu White, I think he's been sensational the last few weeks, given the chance to start because of injuries and things like that. Unfortunately, I feel like it's a bit hard to say. I think Lindsay Collins hasn't been the same player the last probably year and a bit, unfortunately, and obviously some head knocks, things like that. But Nafahu White, in my opinion, has been great, absolutely sensational, and I think it's a huge credit to him, the face shown by Robbo, and it's going to be very hard now for him to, I guess, get dropped. Well, I don't think that'll happen. I think Collins will be off the bench moving forward, and that might help him get a bit of confidence back as well.
Yeah, well, like you just said, I don't believe as well in dropping a player who's doing a good job for a team, especially when a team, I mean, to be fair, they're not winning, but he's not the issue. When a player is not the issue in a team, he definitely shouldn't be dropped. And not only is White not an issue, he's seemingly a solution. He's the one, like you said, he's a bit of a shining light in this team at the moment. He's definitely doing a good job, which I think we all expected, but we just needed him to be able to he needed to get that opportunity to prove, and he got that with Collins sort of being out. So, he ran he ran, where is he? 14 times for 164 meters across 50 minutes, which is huge. That is monstrous. That's huge impact.
Yeah, he was sensational. 2 stints, and both were just as good as the other, which is what you want ideally from your prop forwards. There's a lot in the game where you'll see him have maybe one good stint, and the other one's just almost not non-existent. But he's just in a patch at the moment where, and even from a super coach point of view, I haven't played him once in the last 3 weeks. So I'm kicking myself.
I played him this week.
Okay, thinking it's too good to be true, but he's really stepped up. So credit to him. Moving on, the Prime Friday game, the Broncos 20 defeating the Dolphins 12. It wasn't the greatest game, it's fair to say. I think it's no disrespect there either. One thing I will say, at least what it showed me was how much this game is actually starting to mean to both teams. The passion was on display, the try celebrations to that. The Dolphins, even though they've been poor, they really turned up for this one. They put a hell of a lot of effort into this one. So I'm a bit worried for him, the come down from next week. I don't think I'll be tipping the Dolphins, but they went all in with this one. They really turned up. The Broncos, there was a couple of times where I felt like they were there for the taking, but again, their start to the game was great. I felt like the Broncos, they really laid their foundations, the platforms, and they sort of just got it done from there. Mr. Jihamat Shibasaki, wow, what a game in the centers for the Broncos. So many people thought during the week in the build-up, Staggs is back, he gets dropped for sure. Mariner was always apparently the third choice center in the off season, and that's the way it is. Shibasaki's won that position rightly so. Apparently killed it all off season. He's showing that I think he's been fantastic to start the year. He can't get dropped. Credit to him, and the Broncos are looking dangerous, Jake.
Oh, mate. We said it all off season. We said the Broncos were going to be a top 4 side, and they're looking like that. I'll say this: I didn't expect the score of this game to be as close as it was, to be completely honest with you. I thought it was going to be a bit more of a blowout than it was. Shibasaki, in the game where they lost, he didn't have his best game. But, I mean, like we said, you can have one bad game and bounce back, and he's done that in a big way. He's just looked really, really good for them. And especially, like we said, he was never their first choice, bit of a journeyman kind of thing. And he's come in and just not only done his job, but he's excelled at his job. He's made himself basically undroppable. Dean Mariner didn't do that. And so like Tony Staggs was always going to come back in when he was back. And, Shibasaki's done his job to make sure that wasn't him. And I would rather have Shibasaki than Dean Mariner on my center at the moment as well.
Yeah. No, I agree. On the Dolphins front, I just want to – we sort of hinted towards this last week. We didn't touch on it too much, but I think it is time to touch on it. The Hammer. I'm really disappointed with what I've seen from the Hammer to start the year. He's supposed to be their superstar in a way, their Ferrari. We know what he can do, but for mine, he's just looked disinterested. He hasn't looked like he wants to be there in a way. And I don't know if anything behind the scenes is happening in terms of he wants to leave the club. I'm not even putting anything like that out there, but what it just appears to me at face value, what I'm seeing with my own eyes is a guy that just doesn't look interested. He's not looking for the ball. Like I'm looking at the stats, for instance, and Herbie Farnworth, who is, for mine, their superstar. He is he's the guy. He's the center, and he had more run meters than Hammer, who's the fullback. And for mine, like majority of fullbacks in the game clear their team's run meters from what they do the work. I know originally Herbie was signed with that talk of fullback. I would actually pull the trigger on that. I would actually end up doing it this week, and I would just I think Hammer's now a center. I really feel like it. I don't think he's in the fullback game, and I really think, in a way, Trey Fuller injuries really hurt him because I think he would have got the spot this year. And I don't know, Jake. I don't know if I'm being too harsh, but I just feel like I'd pull the trigger now. I'd have Farnworth back to fullback for a while, see how that works. He's floating around the field a lot anyway, and I just let Hammer find some kind of form again where he's not pressured to be in and around the game 24/7, and he can just get in. And we've seen it at Origin level. He does a fantastic job in the centers. So I'd sort of simpler, bring his game into a bit more simple terms, just really dumb it down in a way. Just go, this is what we want you to do. Stick into your channel. When the ball gets to you, do your thing. And I'd let Farnworth, who I feel like is in quite good form, continue that and hopefully lead the Dolphins into getting some of these victories that they desperately need.
I'm kind of with you and against you. So here's my point on this. Right. The Hammer, I wouldn't argue he's playing badly. I'd argue he's playing safe. I think he's playing too safe. I think that we all know what, again, he can produce. We know that he's a superstar of the game when he puts it on. Like, I know you said that Herbie ran for more, and he did, right? But 19 runs for 155 meters is not slacking off either. Like, that's not to me looking disinterested. That's looking like you're not trying too hard to create. Yeah. If you look, you said you had the stats up now. If you look at the rest, if you look at their forward pack, I'll tell you where your fullback's issue is. No, there's no platform at the Dolphins. They are not laying a platform for him to work off of. He's not the type of player. Oh, actually, sorry, scratch that. He's the type of player that can create from nothing, right? Yes, he is, but he shouldn't have to all the time. He should be able to create from some platform that's been laid from the forwards, and that's not really happening for him at the moment. As for the switch with Herbie and Hamiso, I think that could work because I think that Herbie, every time he runs, he does that. Definitely at the moment, he's running with more vigor. He's running with more, oomph. But it's an interesting one to do, like mid-season. If they haven't trained for it at all, it might be a bit of a tough ask kind of thing. Look, you can only pull the trigger and give it a go and see how the experiment goes. But at the same time, are you hurting the Hammer's confidence there? Are you throwing him under the bus a little bit there and kind of going, well, we you're not good enough. Look, as an NRL player, he should be able to handle it, especially being paid what he does and being able to do the thing that he does. But yeah, it's a tough one because I actually think he's getting a bit hard done by because there was one forward who ran for exactly. Oh no, sorry, Daniel Saifidi made a pretty good platform, but other than that, there was one forward that ran for exactly 100 meters. Everyone else was sub 100 meters. It's not good enough, and there's no platform for him to work off, for his halves to work off. The centers and the wingers are all cracking well over 100. It shouldn't have to be just them. I understand, everyone's trying to play this Panther ball, or your centers and wingers do all the work. But if your centers and wingers are doing that much, your forwards should have more energy to be able to do more themselves. Like, I don't understand why it's not being evenly distributed across the team. And then I feel like Hammer's copying a little bit of extra blame himself over some of his other teammates who aren't possibly, in the spotlight as much.
Get what you're saying. It's just more so for me. What I just don't like the fact that he's not looking to get involved. And it's very clear to me that the Dolphins are struggling, and they have been all year so far. And that's when you normally want these guys who are on the bigger pay packets, are your guys who lead the front line, I guess your main attractions to help get you out of that. And I feel like that's what Herbie's doing. I just question if that's what Hammer's doing. Because for mine, as I said, and let us know in the comments if you agree on what you've seen, but it just feels like the Hammer for mine has shown he hasn't quite been all there. And for mine, as your fullback, you need to be all there each and every game. There is way too many good fullbacks in the game for your fullback to not be. That's my concern.
Yeah, no, and I think that's absolutely fair enough. But again, like I said, it's asking a ridiculous amount for him to create from absolutely nothing being given to him. Although being in good ball with a fair enough amount of ball, he should be creating something. He should be at least trying to create something. Like I said, I do think he's playing too safe. I think he needs to take those risks, and if they don't come off, they don't come off. But you need to have the confidence to try those things and have those to create opportunities. All he's doing right now is his stats look fine, but fine's not where he needs them to be. And you're right about that. I would back him to improve over swapping him first, though.
Okay. We'll see. How many more weeks can he get? Next game up, the Dragons beating the Premiership favourites, firm Premiership favourites at the moment, the Melbourne Storm, 14 points to 8. Jake, we're not surprised by this at all because I've loved him as a player for some time, but the King, Clint Gutherson, absolutely fantastic display. Led him from the front. What are your thoughts?
let him from the back technically. But yeah, no, what an absolute unit. Look, he's looking healthy, is what I would say. And we all know that he was. It's well reported now that last year he was playing with like a busted rib and 2 bung knees and whatever he had. And his knee issues aren't going to necessarily go away. But obviously the off season's really helped him. That's clearly done wonders for him. He ran 20 times for 190 meters, and that's still. We actually said this last game. Obviously because it was a wet game, it was against the Storm. I still feel like that's almost a light game for him. But this is based on sort of his best. But he did awesome, man. He was everywhere. He was defending, attacking, wherever you needed him to be. It didn't reflect too well on Supercoach as his score kind of thing. But as a player in that game, he was incredible. He really was. He did such an awesome job. And I know that he's not playing for us at the moment, but just from a fan of his, I am proud of him. It's good to see him succeeding. I'm glad that he is.
I echo exactly what you said. I feel like for Gutho and for me personally, like he's really lifting the Dragons, in my opinion. I know they lost the opening 2 games and they didn't get it done, but for mine, he sort of was already doing that and lifting the way that they conduct themselves at training on the field. Like there was so many more effort plays from Dragons players that I was seeing, and the fact that they were so disappointed in those losses to me suggested that Gutho is doing exactly what he's there for. He's bringing that winning mentality to the club. He's bringing that competitiveness, and I don't feel like the Dragons of old, like even from last year, would have had any chance of winning this game if it wasn't for the fact that they've now got Gutho at the club, and he changes that thinking to the whole club. And I think it's funny that the club now that hasn't got Gutho is really struggling in that department with the competitive nature, it feels like, and the effort on effort, where the team that's now gained him that was very poor in that area for a number of years now are really good at it, and they do it almost perfectly in a way, and against the competition front runners they showed on the weekend that they can do it against the best, which is no easy feat, especially in those conditions, which I thought were good because
I said no, God no, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah. I feel like from the Dragons' point of view, I think Jaden Sewer as well had one of those games where he really stood up, in my opinion, on the edge. One of his better games for a while. And it was funny because Gutho was asked in the post game about him, and it's sort of like in the nicest way possible, almost admitted to the fact that him and Flano's put a rocket up him in a way, and asked him to be that big leader for him in the forward pack and actually put his best foot forward. Because when he's on, he's an origin forward. He's a really, really good edge back rower. And so far to start the year, we didn't see that. So it was good to see that tough conversation has been given. Some players out there, they don't like it or they don't handle it well, but he clearly has handled it quite well. I'm really keen to see how he continues this form as well.
Yeah, Jaden Sewer's always been one, even when he was at not the Dragons, even when he was over at the Rabbitohs, he's been a player that can change a game for you just based on pure effort and just those big hits. He's the player you look for when you need something to just like spark the whole team and sort of give them that bit of energy. And he's doing that over at the Dragons now at the moment. So like when they get stuck in that lull of like, sets sort of being, what's the word I'm looking for? Like completed sets, very nice and rhythmic. He can kind of break that, I think, in a good way. Like he can break that for his team. He also has a penalty in him also. But at the same time, I've always prefer a player who's going to come in and do the hard work and the effort and do all of that and be just competing so hard that, maybe they make a mistake or whatever. I don't care if they're competing like he does, man. You'd take a player who does that sort of any day of the week. And I'll just add on because it's just something I want to make sure that we mention is debut for the Dragons, David Clemmer. Only got 25 minutes, but I will say, 6 runs for 65 meters over 25 minutes. Not a bad effort at all. He's come on. I don't think he made any errors from what I remember.
I was interested I thought he would have got a second stint. I was very interested and that probably is a credit to the fact that who was it on debut? Dylan Egan actually had a stormer of a game and they just kept him going. So probably a good credit to him and shout out to him on debut. He was fantastic.
Well, a lot of their bench, a lot of their bench players didn't get massive minutes. I mean, Jacob Little 28 minutes, Clemmer got 25, Hamish Stewart got 30, and then
Well,
Dylan
Clemmer
Egan
actually
got 41
started.
minutes.
That was a late change that hasn't reflected on the NRL app, but Toby Catchman went to the interchange bench for David
Yeah,
Clemmer to start. That's why I'm saying I'm interested in the fact that Clemmer only got the
he
one
didn't get a
stint. I thought
second
he would have
stint.
got one in the back end of the game, especially being experienced and it was being a close game. But I think that's a good show of faith from Flano as well and some of his younger forwards to just leave him out there when they were going so well.
The players he's been working with for the year that he obviously, he only just got Clemmer across. I think that's definitely a good show of faith, and I think they'd appreciate that too, especially because they got the win. That'd be huge. You know what? I think that's going to be a huge game for their season. I really do. I think that's going to be a season-changing game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they can really bounce off this, and they need to. They need to make sure next week they go in and they put in a display, and not just a good display. They actually need to make sure they win the game next week. So I'll be really looking forward to seeing how they go there. There's one thing on the Storm. Obviously, this is the first week of I think 2 or maybe 3 without Jerome Hughes, while he's getting himself fixed up from injury. I was a bit and I know he was so good last year, but I was a bit disappointed in Wishart's game. I thought he ran the ball way too much as a halfback, which I thought really dented the chances of the Storm's outside men, which I said earlier in this podcast already. They got probably the best edge attack in the competition by almost a country mile. And I thought Wishart actually didn't play that to their strength at all. And he really just almost every time it felt like shaped to keep going and just dummied and went himself. And I just thought, after about the third time of him doing it, the Dragons just swallowed him up every time and loved him doing that because in those conditions as well, the worst thing you want as a defender is a center or an edge back rower running as hard as they can because they are extremely hard to tackle close to the line, and Wishart didn't use it once.
Yeah, I think it was a classic sort of case of 2-5-8. You've got two running players who are comfortable running. They get told to do that, most of their career and whatever, and they get filled in and they get told to do a halfback's role and they can't. I'm not saying that Wishart can't be a 7. He just hasn't had to do it. He hasn't had to do it in this team specifically. Last year when Munster was out and he was their main 5'8", he got to play what was just his natural role, which is very similar to what sort of Munster does and that running role and everything like that. He, for mine, isn't yet a 7, but at the same time, I think because of the wet weather, it was a bit sloppy conditions kind of thing. Maybe he just felt more comfortable taking that ball and just going, you know what, like I'd rather not make the mistake. I'd rather just take the run and stuff like that. And he's only young, he's still only building confidence. He still took, I know you said that he ran too much, but he took 19 runs for 151 meters. So he didn't have a bad.
Not what you want from halfback though.
No, exactly right. If he was a 5'8" in that game, awesome game. You're talking about how incredible he played. But because he was the halfback in that game, it doesn't marry up with what we sort of wanted to, what you'd want to see from him, especially as a sort of his coach or as the Storm fan there. I will have faith in him because he'll be back in again, I'd imagine, next week because Peasant's injured. Yeah. And so he'll be back in again next week. And I think if it's dry conditions, you'll see better from him.
Yeah, no, I agree. Next game up was the Cowboys beating the Raiders 30 points to 20. So they got their first win up of their season. So this might kickstart something for the Cowboys. And I'm going to try and say this, and this is actually a positive because in my opinion, I didn't think the Cowboys were that great in this game. I don't think it was a performance where I stood back and I went, that was a really good win by the Cowboys. I think it was just one of those ones where they just need to get it done, which they did. So credit to them, great work. And this can start to build confidence for the Cowboys moving forward, which is what they needed because it looked like they had a lot of players there that just had zero confidence whatsoever in what they were doing. And now they can start to build, which is awesome. I was want to quickly shout out to Jackson Purdue, who I think has been building into his game so far really nicely. Like on the weekend, 17 runs for 217 meters, 40 post-contact meters. Absolutely huge from a huge performance. And I think he's just been warming up nicely, which is great throughout. I think every game so far, and it's been 4 weeks for the Cowboys, he's gotten better every week. So I'm very keen to see what he's got for us next week because this has been great from him. Well done on how he's gone about this, and well done to the Cowboys. Really impressed.
Yeah, well, look, we had that little bit of content we did about who was going to be the first or the last team, I suppose, to get a win, and look, it was out of Eagles and Cowboys, and I don't think anyone expected them to win this game. To be honest with you, I don't think anyone went in going, "Oh, Cowboys are. I'm pretty confident they can get this." It felt like Dearden specifically stepped up a fair bit. I think he really stepped up, and even Jake Clifford, that try that he scored was that was a pretty nice one there. Sort of stepped up in that regard. Their center wings, like you said, Purdue, huge running game from him. Got a lot of he helped set that platform for the Cowboys in there. Like you said, 17 runs for 270 meters is pretty much unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. And of course, this was the week I sold him out of my Supercoach team, so that was always good. But I still want to see more. If I'm being honest, yes, it was a good win. I want to see more out of Ruben Cotter, specifically, being who he is. I really like to see more out of him. I don't know, he's just been a bit quiet, and to be honest with you, it kind of felt the same last year. He never really felt like he hit the heights he did sort of the year before. I'd like to see Tamalolo actually did not too bad, but I'd like to see a little bit sort of more meterage out of him, to be honest with you. He sort of got cut short for a few meters, what I'd expect kind of thing out of him. John Bateman went quite well, and I think he's fitting in quite well at the Cowboys. So, look, they're going to continue to grow, and I think they'll win a few more games where people sort of don't expect them to, but good on them. Congratulations on your win.
Just a shout out to Jakey Clifford. I thought it was a really, really good game, and he's put an exclamation mark on that 7 jersey for the time being. So cool. Credit to him, and really keen to see where that continues on from his point of view. And it sort of felt like in a way him and Dearden, that was the best, and coincidentally, it's the game that the Cowboys did win, but that's the best their halves have actually combined and looked for the season so far.
Oh, for sure. We know what Dearden can do. Jake Clifford has had some pretty brilliant games last year. Like, he had some touches of brilliance. He just needs to bring that consistency.
Yeah. For the Raiders, I just want to say this on the Raiders, and I don't want to go too much into their performance, but I just want to say I reckon they've really let down Ricky Stewart this week, because he went into bat for him last week. We've seen potentially a couple of really dodgy calls that they did get against him, and probably some harsh calls that just got Manly on the front foot, and then there was no stopping Manly when they had that player in the bin, things like that. But they had a week to come back and sort of say, thanks, coach, for backing us, basically. He did anything but get a fine. He got away with that. He worded things very well, Ricky. But they just came out and they started quite okay. It was that second patch of the first half after that first drinks break. They just weren't there at all. And they tried to fight back, which shows they're a fit football side. Again, it was too late. But if my coach had just come out in the media and basically just sworn back black and blue to back me 100%, I would be really disappointed if I was Ricky Stewart this week. I'd be talking to him. I'd be saying, what happened? Like, you can't be saying like you're fatigued, because it was this first half and it was just after a drinks break, and then they just completely fell asleep.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a tough one. You're right. He absolutely went to bat for them, and they've come out and they've sort of just, I don't know whether they took it for granted or whether they've just come in and not sort of, I don't think it felt like they weren't putting in any effort, but it felt like things weren't coming off. That there were definitely mistakes and errors that sort of didn't need to be made. But I'll say this. I don't want to take away, before I go into it, I don't want to take away from what the Cowboys brought to that game, because the Cowboys came to win and they did a really good job. But you're right. I think that the Raiders, being the team that we've sort of said they are, and the team that they've shown they can be, should have not only won that game, they should have come out and flogged that game. They should have come out after Ricky's gone to bat to them and just gone, like, we're here, we're showing you we're here for you as much as you're here for us, and let's do this. Let's do this thing. Let's put a score on them. And instead, they found themselves fighting for it. I don't know if it's because it was in the heat. Look, Yes, they had a bit of a home field. They definitely had a home field advantage, the Cowboys, in that heat. Yeah, sure. Right. But, they're all some of the fittest players we've got and stuff like that. And they got extra drink breaks and things like that. Yeah, it was hot. Deal with it. You're both in the heat. Yes, they're more accustomed to it. You're both in the heat. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
They're all weak as well. So
yeah.
They made a big effort. Made a big effort for this game, and I just thought I was really disappointed because if I'm going to be honest, their big thing last year, I know Fogarty was the main thing, but they also had a few games where they lost to where you just think, how did they lose it? And that performance was the Raiders of old, and I've been very big on the Raiders, so I think they're a very quality football side this year, and I think a lot of teams will get done by them. But they've got to make sure they start winning these games against these lesser oppositions that they're expected to win. They simply need to make sure they win these games. Just for mine, it's not good enough. And then once again, won't be making finals football if they continue on that trend. So, because the silly thing is, like next week, for instance, if they'll play, let's say that hypothetically they played the Storm, they'd end up beating them. That's the sort of game. That's the sort of team they are. They would end up beating them, but they just can't be that team. They've got to get these games won and win ugly. Win them ugly.
Yeah. You got to win those games that will be the 2 points that will put you into that 8, or that will get you into that at the end of the season, because they're the ones that matter.
Yeah, and just finally, Savage. I don't know if you and Paddy have something you need to sort out, but how you didn't draw and pass to the fullback towards the end there, which would have helped you guys a lot. I've got no idea.
Honestly,
I was like, that's a guaranteed try. Owen Paddy, Onus, the super coach, will be loving it, but I could not believe he held that ball. That was an absolute wow.
Tell you what
That's
that
like
was. Tell you what that was.
Stuff.
I'll tell you what that was. That was pretty savage.
Oh, on that, we'll finish on that one. The last of the Saturday games, the Sharkies versus the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs got it done 20 points to 6 in an actual dogfight. It was an enjoyable game to watch. It was back and forth. There was emotions. We love all that sort of stuff. The Sharkies, I was really disappointed the fact that they let this game go to where it got to, though. It played exactly into the Bulldogs' hands. They love that. Essentially, they love that dogfight where it's just dirty, it's just niggly, it's just. And for mine, the Sharks have never been that team, and I don't think they've ever shown when it's that sort of game. I don't remember a game where they've come out on top. They lose them 9 times out of 10. Like that's. And at home, you can't let a team come to your home ground and almost dictate from the start how this game is going to be played and how it's going to go. You've got to be smart enough in your halves to work out ways to get it and fix it, whether it's an early kick or get on the front foot and go from there, force a mistake. You just have to. And this is a performance for mine. Like, I know there's been a lot of people out there really keen on the Sharkies this year, but straight away, as soon as this game was, like, I could tell early on that the Sharks weren't going to win this game, and I was kicking myself because there was part of me that wanted to tip the Dogs. I didn't do it. But the Doggies were also without Matt Burton and Viliami Kikau, 2 of their big guns, 2 of their, like, they're playing. There's probably a lot of people tipping the Dogs in this game if they were playing.
Yes, 100%. I would have.
I'm just disappointed to see what has happened for the Sharks in this game. I think it's a huge dent to their confidence.
I think the Sharks are a team that when they're playing classy football, and like you said, they got into that sort of dogfight.
They want to dictate.
When they are dictating the way the game is played, and when they are playing classy football where, they're not having much sort of pressure put on them and whatever, yeah, they look fantastic. And they're a team with players who could absolutely get the job done, who could be top 4. But at the same time, and this has been the story for the last 2 years now, they crumble. There are games where they just crumple, and they should be the games they should be winning. Like you just said, I would have myself tipped Bulldogs if Matty Burton and Viliami Kikau were there, but they weren't. And so not only did the Sharks lose to the Bulldogs, which, in and of itself isn't that bad because the Bulldogs are flying, right? But they lost to the Bulldogs with a very, very inexperienced half in next to Toby Sexton, who is having a good season, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying, like, he's not like your top 5 elite halves in the competition. He's not even maybe your top sort of 7, top 8 you'd even be thinking of when you think of your top halves in the competition. So they've lost to 2 very inexperienced sort of halves, and they're a team that everyone's saying should be able to win the comp. So that's same as we said with the Raiders. It's another game where you shouldn't be. Not only should you not be losing this game, you shouldn't be losing this game by 14 points. That's for sure.
Mm.
They should have been able to put more points on than 6-20, 100%. So
yeah, and
I don't
they've
even.
shown now to the competition how you beat the Sharks. The Sharks is sort of unraveled in a way. They started pushing, like AFB got up and just full on shoved Sam in the face. Like it's just teams will be watching that now and going for the next few weeks. You'll see it. They'll be niggling all game and they'll be waiting for the Sharks to crack and they'll love it. And it'll happen. There'll be times, but hopefully for the Sharks fans' sake, Fitzy gets them in this week and they find a way to overcome it. And again, it sounds funny, and I'm not trying to harp on it, but I know there's pressure on them. That comes back to your halves. I just think they controlled that game really poorly, in my opinion. For the Doggies, though, like that game, huge. To get those 2 points, they probably, I think realistically, a lot of their fans would not have expected to win this game before kickoff with the players out, but to then come away with 2 points, they're the only undefeated team now in the competition. We all had thought that would have been the Storm, so huge credit to the Bulldogs there. Mate, they're going about things they just nice and quietly. Like they haven't been like last week, for instance. Yeah, last week they weren't good. I think the Eagles should have beaten them. They were there for the taking. They just weren't there. This week they were just a different football team. They were like a finals football team. They were ready. They were playing that finals footy already, and that's great to see. If I'm a fan, this has made me really keen on what I feel like my team can achieve this year after what I've just seen.
Oh, look, 100%. I mean, like you said, they didn't play well against us last week, and they pretty comfortably got the job done. It didn't really ever feel like we were ever even going to get near. Like, well, we were 6 points off, but we were never going to win that game. They had us. They had us at arm's length and just kind of pushed us off. But against the Sharks, you wouldn't expect the scoreline you sort of saw there. And the Bulldogs, they put themselves in a position where, like you said, they're dictating the tempo, and the best teams can do that. If you're a team that can dictate another team's tempo for the game, you are looking great for the season. And it's so good. Everyone had those question marks around the pack, the Bulldogs pack when the Serrato came in and tried to aim for like the smaller size and all that. But what he's kind of gained this year, he's kind of gained like 1 or 2 pretty big bodies that go along with that sort of smaller pack that kind of just complement it really well and sort of don't have to do that massive, like they don't have to have these massive engines because they can kind of then rely on their young, like their smaller sort of compatriots after they've done a lot of the big hits and that sort of work. It's just looking awesome. And then you've got their back line. You talk about one of the better backlines in the competition. Stephen Crichton, premiership winner. Bronson Sherry is just an absolute, not only is a powerhouse, he's a speed freak, so he's just kind of got a bit of everything. Blake Wilson is a bit, he's youthful. I wouldn't say he's like, he definitely wouldn't be able to play Panthers ball. Like he doesn't do the tough hitters to get out of his own end, but he can finish a try. God, can
he's the backup dancer as well because they're waiting for Chris to come back. That's
exactly right. Exactly right. You're missing one of the best wingers in the comp. And Marcelo Montoya had a really good game this week. I don't personally believe defense-wise I rate him that highly. But again, he's a good attacking winger.
Yeah, and he's happy to get through some work as well. Shout out to Toby Sexton. I thought he was fantastic in this game and really overshadowed 2 halves that are probably on much more money and very much in the press a lot more. But I thought he was sensational and just showed. And he just like there's all this media talk about Cherry Evans and maybe the Dogs are looking for a 7, but it's these performances you get from someone like Sexton. You go, I really hope they stick with him. Like I hope they keep going because it feels like there's a really good quality footballer there, and there's a few people that still remember him from his Titans days, trying to lead around a team that was constantly getting smacked, and you can't do anything when you're a halfback in those situations. Where he's now on the front foot a lot more than he's used to, and we're just seeing I feel like a good quality playmaker in the works, which I love. It's a huge credit to Toby Sexton. I think he's doing great.
Yeah. When he was at the Titans, I remember him impressing me a fair bit because obviously they were getting dominated in those games. But whenever they were putting on points, it seems to be him sort of orchestrating that and making it happen. Now that he's around a pack that can kind of work, he can actually work with, he does look a lot better. And like, I know we've sort of talked about it before with him and Connor Tracy being the two people that sort of you said you'd replace if you wanted them to be more of a premiership threat than they are. But if I'm being completely honest with you, I really don't mind Toby Sexton. I just think that he needs still a little more time to develop his consistency across. But I mean, so far, Bulldogs have been the most consistent team in the competition. I mean, they like we said, they played a little bad last week, but they didn't lose. And they probably still could have beaten
one ugly, which we're saying all these teams would do, and they did.
Exactly right. I want to give a shout out to a person who I thought when the signing happened, I thought it was going to go badly, and he just ended up playing reserve grade a lot of the time. But Satili Tupanua, man, he's found his old form, and I love it. I really do love it. It did. Don't get me wrong, right? I understand, yes, he did some stupid things, but 15 runs for 117 meters is not slacking. That's for sure. Not slacking at all. But he, not only that, when he was at the Roosters and when he was at the peak of his powers, he'd score he was scoring almost a try game at one point where he just had line running. He just ran a line so better than anyone else in the competition, honestly, at sometimes. So he would just hit the line with no fear at full speed and just know his half's going to put that ball in his chest. And he's doing that again, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Final shout out from this game. I just want to give one to Max King, who I think has been severely underrated. We're in a special time in this game where we've got so many elite front rowers: Payne Haas, Fanua Blake, Fisher Harris. Terrell May is quickly becoming one of those as well with his performance week after week. But I just feel like, and I think Doggies fans have appreciated him for so long now, and I just think as NRL fans, we need. He's not in that catalog. He's not going to be those players. I think we know that, but he just gets through his work each and every week. You go look at his numbers, and he's got the same numbers every week, and he just sets the platform perfectly. He doesn't get the raps. He doesn't get the limelight like some of these other big name props are getting, but I don't think he wants it. I don't think he cares. Like, he's happy to go about his work, and he's happy to get the win at the end of the day. I love those forwards that just want to do their work, get the job done. See you later.
It's honestly probably better because when you're a forward that has the limelight on you and stuff like that, everyone focuses on making sure that you get contained and all this stuff. Man, I don't think that you'd be doing video work and being focusing on Max King. I don't think any team's sitting there and going, like, oh, Max King's the one we have to shut down to stop this team. But he kind of is. Because like you said, he's putting up the same numbers every time. And if you have a forward that's that consistent and you can shut them down, the platform crumples. So to be honest with you, him putting up the numbers that he does, and he's done it for the last 2 years. He was in my Supercoach team both of the last 2 years because I knew I'd be getting consistent 60 sort of points a week. I know that's, it's a Supercoach thing, and we're not going to talk too much about that, but, forwards getting that aren't doing a bad job. That's all I'm just going to say about that. Like, he's been doing the same job for the last 2 years.
Yeah. No, he's doing a really good job. Finally, guys, I know we've missed a player who was absolutely fantastic on the night was Jacob Preston, but I'm not mentioning him because I sold him on the weekend Supercoach wise, so I just got a little bit of a personal gripe at the moment with him. Unfortunately, it was all on myself. I'm not blaming Preston, but I just don't want to talk him up any more than I already have because it really hurts. It really hurts. So, but shout out to him. He had a fantastic game, and we all know it. So he's going to get these raps he thoroughly deserves. First of today's games, the Sunday games, Manly 26 beating the Eels 12. From a Manly point of view, Jake, obviously Cherry Evans ran out, didn't really seem to have any boos. There was a lot of cheers, which I found interesting because I've had a few Manly fans reach out over the last, since it happened, and they weren't too impressed, it's fair to say. But at least for now, they're trying to get a premiership. There's two things I want to talk about with the Manly game. First of all, I don't think they were that good today at all, which is probably, and we'll talk about it from a Para point of view, says more about their performance, but they will probably be looking back at things probably at the moment tonight, just going, and Coach Seabold going, we probably played a 6 out of 10 today and we got it done. I feel like majority of the competition would have won against Manly today. So again, if you can get a win ugly, you're doing something right. And in my opinion, they're a top sort of 4 or 5 team in the competition. So you need to win these games to be in that position. And they've done that.
it felt like they knew they were able to cruise and that they just didn't need to risk. Yeah, it felt like they didn't need to risk like injuring themselves or going at 100% because it didn't feel like it was necessary, and it wasn't. I'm not going to talk about the Eels yet, or wait till we go into that, but it wasn't against their opponent today. That being said, all their backs, other than Tommy obviously being injured and having what happened to him, all their backs ran for well over, or actually all of them ran for over 150 meters, with Lehi Hopewada running over 200 meters. So that was their back line did an awesome job. But even Daly Cherry Evans ran 12 times for 100 meters. They had where is he? Aloi ran for 92, which isn't 100, I know that. But then they had Takiaho, Olakawatu all run for well over 150 meters. So that being said, they had players who did have to stand up to kind of carry them through the victory a little bit, but they're the players you expect to anyway. Except for maybe Takiaho. I suppose I'm a bit surprised by that. He actually got through a fair bit more work than I sort of thought he did today, but he was everywhere, it seems like. I didn't really notice him, but yeah.
I'm not a medical professional at all, and I'm not here to. Oh, actually, I am here to question that thing. I've been involved with sport for a lot of my life. I've had my fair share of injuries in my days doing sport as well. I am very much questioning why Manly played Tom Trbojevic today. He clearly came out already strapping, and we've now found out there was a knock yesterday at training. But even before that, like on the turf, on the conditions, slippery, knowing he has hamstring issues and just had to be rested from last week because of it. So for mine, it was an injury. I just don't know what they were thinking, because now you've lost him for a couple of weeks at least, until scans confirm what has actually happened there. Touch wood, it is only a small MCL issue, which would be great for just rugby league in general. I just don't get it. Like, I think Manly need to start realizing they've actually got a genuine superstar in the making in Lehi Hopewadi there, who is a great fullback, and they need to start putting a bit more faith into him, because this, in my opinion, was poor management. They didn't need to play him. If you got him knocked yesterday, just say to Tommy, go over the top and go, mate, sit this one out. This is the wooden spooners at the moment who are showing not much. We don't want to show them this too much disrespect, but we're going to get this done. We've got a freak fullback in the wings ready to step up. We've got great backline depth at the moment who can just step up and do Lehi's job as well. I don't know why they pushed this. They almost in a way have done this to themselves by pushing him.
Well, also, as far as I'm aware, they have the bye next round. So not only would they have gotten this week off for him, I believe they have next. I'm pretty sure. I can check in a second, but pretty sure they have next week off as well.
No, the Warriors have next week.
Oh, I thought I heard
for
that
a few weeks away.
No stress. All good. Either way, you're right. Taking a week off,
Storm next week.
Even more reason why you should have had Tom. That's it, yeah. Even more reason why you want to save your fullback. Give him the week. Make sure that he's 100% right before you go into a game like that. Not only do they have Lehi Hopewadi, who will be an absolutely fantastic fullback, and he's a great player, they have 3 gun fullbacks on their bench. They've got Cola and they've got Garrett in their back line.
Yeah.
Any one of their back line can play fullback except for Saab, from what I'm aware of. I don't know if he's ever played there before, but they've got 3 of their back line can play fullback. They don't need to play him in a game against the team who hasn't looked like winning against another team all year so far. Like, they have enough, and like we've talked about it, they're in a position this year where if he goes down, they can cover for it. So they should be doing that when he is injured to try and save him for those games where you really want to get those wins and you really want to have him at 100%.
Yeah.
I agree. They shouldn't have pushed him. I don't know why they did. I think it was stupid, to be honest with you. Bad sort of management, because now he's done his MCL, as far as, or meniscus, might have been meniscus, but he's out for a while.
Yeah. MCL, that's what the reports are. We'll wait for the scans to confirm, I guess, tomorrow or today when you are listening to this, guys. But hopefully, it's just
silly.
I think, and there'll definitely be comments, I reckon, coming back after this saying, yeah, but he's on $1 million plus or whatever he's on, and this is what. In my opinion, though, these are the players you want to play in these big games. They've got a big game coming up next week, and even not just that, but you want to manage him properly. In my opinion, you want Tom Trbojevic to be 100% fit for, say, 16 games each year, rather than keep like I thought they would have learnt this from last year, where they clearly pushed him early, where he just didn't look the player we know and love. You need to learn to manage this properly and just say to you as a club, go, we want to make sure whenever he's on the field, he's pretty much 100. And I know there's players out there, the majority of the comp can't be 100% every week, but I think Turbo's different because you don't want to run the risk of he quickly can become a big injury. That's how we've seen it happen before with him. And all of a sudden you're talking about not having Turbo for the rest of the year, which would be huge at the moment for Manly. I know we're saying they can counter it for sure, but to win the competition, in my opinion, they need Turbo to be playing. So you can't risk him not being there when the big games are there.
100%. Especially when, like we said, he was versing a team where they didn't, not that they didn't need the win, but they would have got it. Like they didn't. We said that they cruised through that game, and they didn't need to play him. They have is it Falalo? Is that the? Yeah, they got him for another center wing option. Like they don't. It just wasn't necessary today, and now that they've taken him out for longer, it's like, well, you could have avoided that. You could have given him a week off, and if he still wasn't 100% by next week, you give him that week off too, because you want him. You want him coming into a game like 100%, because there's no point having a guy at the back who is hobbling into tackles. Like, what do you gain? You're not gaining anything from him. He's definitely not worth the whatever 100,000, the 700,000 or whatever million. I don't know what he's on. Some ungodly amount of money. He's not worth that hobbling into tackles and doing 5 runs for 32 meters before going off the field. You're better off waiting, get him 100% while you've got players to cover for him. If they had, their depth injuries were down or something like that, and they needed him on there, then maybe that's a different story. But they didn't. They have options. Silly stuff.
I agree. It's all about the Eels. Let me know your thoughts.
Do we have to?
Unfortunately.
Well, I counted just a second ago 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players from Manly who ran for over 100 meters in that game, right? And 2 of them were bench players. I don't see a forward on our list. I don't know if you can see our stats, but I don't see a forward on our list who ran for over 100 meters. We had Isaiah Iongi, who is solid as always. I think he is going to develop into a really great player when he has some sort of platform to run off. The issues in our forward pack, and I'll say this, I've said it again. Yes, we have some maybe defensive issues on the sides. Tries were leaked. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot I can talk about this. I'm trying to figure out a way to go with it. I'm trying to pick a direction. Our forward pack is getting bullied by every team we verse. We've got players there who don't want to be there. Man, I'm going to call him out again. He did this last week. He ran for 5 times. Sean Lane, another 5 runs. At least Katoga last week, he ran 3 times last week, but at least this time he ran for 9 this week. Like, he had a crack, somewhat of a crack. Sean, you're meant to be our senior player who's performing for us to get, to rev the team up. See how many times he was hanging out on the wing, just sitting there doing nothing. The big oaf. Oh, sorry, I needed to let that one out.
Oh, I bet you that felt good. I bet you that felt very good. You are 100% spot on. This forward pack, seriously, like if there is not changes this week, Riles has rocks in his head. It has to be said, because even like, I know you just mentioned him, and at least he improved, but for mine, that both edges are poor. There is clearly other players that can come into to edge spots to make it better. I'll say this. Geimer came on late and showed more on the edge than either of those two have shown for the last 2 weeks. Then you've got Maddo, and then you've got Cardi, who are just both, for some reason, just become outsiders of this team all of a sudden. And you can't tell us that Sean Lane deserves this walk-up start he's getting every week. He's done nothing, absolutely nothing, and he's on the side. I know with Dylan Brown, but I was the same with you, mate. Like, as you were just before you read out, I looked at the run meters, and to not see a single forward in 100 meters plus is disgusting, absolutely disgusting. And the other thing, and people, I'm reading comments, I'm seeing people, and I know we're close with a few pages and stuff, but like, people are still trying to say Junior's improved his game and things like that. I don't think he really has. I think he's back to trying to overplay his hand as a playmaker, and he doesn't need to do that. Like at the moment, and we're seeing by the stats, the Eels are really struggling to get that forward momentum. I just want Junior to cut the freaking ball up and
Tuck
get
it
us
and
some
run.
momentum. Like stop
Tuck it
going
and
out
run.
the back and passing and letting the defense come up because it's not working. It's not working.
I'd like to jump in for 2 seconds to say I want to give props to one of our props. Okay. Sam Tuivasa of 33 minutes, did run 11 times for 87 meters. I want to give him fair play where it's due. He's a young guy. He hasn't, he's not used to having many minutes up in the NRL, and he's come up today with 33 minutes to Junior's 58. Okay. And he's run the same amount of times for 5 meters less, in 20 meters less time than he had. He came on and he just stormed, and I want to see him start. I would love to see him start for us. I understand why maybe he's not sort of doing that, but I would love to see him get a start for the team because he's doing a really great job. I got in trouble today.
Oh,
yeah, I'll tell you a story. I got in trouble today. Well, I don't know if you remember. We had this little period where we almost scored. Well, no, sorry, I thought we didn't almost score, but we were playing on the right hand side. I only did a pretty good job. I think it was fourth tackle, and Kartoga jumped into hooker. I don't know if you remember this. Kartoga jumped into hooker and passed it across to the winger, and he just got taken out of play. I let out like this guttural scream, like this genuine, like frustrated scream. And my fiance was eating dinner and she yelled at me and I got in trouble. But it was just one of those moments and you just go like, what are we doing? We need someone to step up.
I agree. It's
my rant is over.
Joey Lussick, if he can learn to attack and actually go a short side would be awesome because every time it looked like Manly were a bit vulnerable on an edge, he literally just went the safe option every single time and went back into the middle and killed any sort of momentum we possibly had. Riley Smith has shown so far he is the best hooker at the club at the moment. Stop trying to protect him. We are not in a position as a club to protect these sorts of. We need to get some wins on the board. Play your best players to start. Stop with this. And then for mine, Lussick is the third best hooker at the club. Have hands on the bench or 100%. Go all out attack at the moment. Try and grab some games and get Joash Papali'i or Papali at the 14 and just come on and run amok for a 20, 30-minute stint as a, who knows, as whatever he wants, to be honest with you. I'm at the stage now where we just need to throw caution to the wind. We're not going to win many games this year. That's very clear. So why not go out fighting with those games? Because that, for mine, was a really, really poor hooker game by Joey Lussick, and he cost us a number of times.
I'd like to say one thing from an analysis perspective, not as a fan perspective. How many coaches in the NRL do you know that play that run a two-hooker system that play their second hooker after the second half? 2 weeks in a row now, it's happened where Riley Smith has come on in about the 50th minute kind of thing. So he doesn't come on in the first half, comes on after the second half, after their forwards have had a stint had a break, half times happen. They're not as tired as they were. And he comes on and he still lifts the team. He still makes us look better than we were. If you're going to, I can understand I can maybe get around the minutes you're playing him if you're trying to like get him into the game, get him into the NRL, whatever, right? But if you're going to do it at the optimal time. Put him in at the 30th minute. Put him in at the 25th minute when their forwards are steaming. They're puffed. Like they've been out there for a while and they're cooked. Get him out there so you can actually start it, get some crisp service, take some scoots, do some dummy half work that'll get our team on the front foot as opposed to putting us out there put him out there at the end of the game when it doesn't matter anymore. Like why can you understand? Is there some sort of tactical awareness I'm missing? Is there some sort of tactic I'm missing with that, or is there some sort of reason you can think of why that would be the right call?
I think Riles is putting a bit too much faith into Lussick when, unfortunately, as us Para fans have known over the last year or two, he simply isn't up to it, in my opinion. He isn't an NRL first-grade hooker anymore. Probably should be back at Super League. I know that might sound harsh, but we call it as we see it on here. We're not afraid to. And you're right. If it is going to work, even if it was to go back to hands to do it, literally just get him to go for about the 25th, 30-minute mark, get him off, get Riley Smith on for literally the remainder of the game. He's apparently the fittest at the club as well, so fitness isn't an issue. He can get through 60 minutes in a breeze, in a canter. I don't know why they're not doing that. There's one. I just want to quickly mention, Zach Lomax, you are not a center. Get over this personal thing you've got with center. You're a winger. Go to the wing because you can't even draw and pass. Like you don't have a passing game. You've shown not. I'm not just going basing this off one game. Throughout his career, he's often pushed passes and not been able to land passes. He's a winger. He's a world-class winger. He's probably the best, if not the second best winger in the world. Play it. And Riles, you need to put your big boy pants on a little bit here and tell him as the head coach, this is what you're playing. And Bailey Simonson, by reports, is back. He's played a couple of games of reserve grade. I've heard it hasn't been the greatest showings, but at the same time, he's got to be better than Russell, and it's moving Bailey into the centers. That's what I'd be doing moving forward. Bailey's shown in the past, go back to the grand final year, things like that. He can handle center. He's a very good center, and it moves Lomax to his preferred position.
And not only does it move him to his preferred position, well, his better position, I should say, not his preferred because he doesn't want to play there. His better position, but I actually think not only should we do that, we should actually put Simonson back over on the left where he's played for us before and switch Penasini back over to the right-hand side where he should be, where he knows how to defend. He'll have a good defender outside of him. He'll be able to play the role he's played for us for years where we all go, oh, he's such a gun. Why are we shifting him out? And when he's getting caught out in these defensive positions, because he's not comfortable. You can see he's not comfortable. He's not, first of all, his outside and inside men, he does no trust in them. And why would you? Because they don't seem very trustworthy to me at the moment. And then not only that, is he has to tackle with his shoulder. He's probably not as comfortable with having to tackle with, and he has to get on the outside of people, and he's awkward. He feels uncomfortable. You put him on the side he's supposed to be on. He's got a great offload. He'll get good ball across to Zach Lomax. He's got a great catch and pass, and Zach Lomax will be fantastic out there. Then you've got two speedsters on the left-hand side in Simonson and Adokar, and even if Simonson isn't the best at defensive reads, maybe at center, Adokar's really good at that communication side of things. So I think that'd shore that right up anyway. To be honest with you, I think it's the only choice we should have. I think it's not even a debate, to be honest with you.
Last point I want to make before moving on, Dylan Brown. I've been in your camp, so to speak, to not move you on immediately. I think you're missing Moses a lot, which is fair. It is fair. You both had a really good combination, but again, like I just question the performance today. Like, do you want to be here anymore? That's my only question to you. It feels like now I know the stats. Like actually, I just looked at it then, and it makes me feel
it's not
like
bad.
I completely missed something. 12 runs for 110 meters, 20 post contact, 2 tackle breaks, but I don't know if that's a bit deceiving. Like, and maybe there was a few of those, and there was a try assist at the end as well for Sean Lane. But there was like a couple of things right near the end of the game where throughout even the start of the second half, or majority second half, the game was there for him to just run the ball and actually take on the line. And I just felt like he didn't want to. He didn't want a bar of it. He's not interested. And again, his defense for mine, which is normally his strongest point of his game, just is nowhere near what it has been. And for mine, his head is just literally nowhere where it needs to be for the club, and it's just going to keep impacting the club. And again, I've been a huge advocate in having him stay, but he's making it very, very hard at the moment to back him and be that in that camp of let him play out the year, because I think as a fan, we don't deserve to go, and fans in general, you don't deserve to have to support a club that we do each and every year when the player's leaving and showing very clear signs that perhaps he doesn't want to be there anymore.
I'm with you and against you at the same time, and I've said this twice now in this podcast that I'm like that. But then let me explain myself in this camp. We still want to win games, and yes, maybe he isn't playing his best. He's been playing pretty poorly over the last few weeks. I get that. But who do we have at the moment readily available who will put in a better performance than him? That's my question. Because I don't think Volkman will. Don't get me wrong, Volkman will develop into a good player. He's not there yet. Okay. And obviously we're playing Hawkins at the moment. So when Mitch comes back, and if Dylan is still not playing the best there, then you look at playing one of those two with Mitch. Yes. For now, until Mitch is back, this is what we've got. There is no dropping him. What are you going to do? You're going to play Volkman, not you, I'm just in general. You're going to play Dean Hawkins and Volkman next to each other. I don't think that works because, you're playing the two still completely inexperienced halves with a team that needs experience right now. It needs somebody to step up. And I know Dylan hasn't done it yet, but he's our best chance. At the moment, he is. It sucks, and it's such an unfortunate thing to say, but that's just where we're at. As a club, with the recruitment and retention we've done, that's where we're at. So I'm not going to go too deep into that because, it's not what we're here to talk about. He did have 12 runs for 110 meters. I'd actually argue it's his best game this year, to be honest with you. I'd argue it was the best game he's put in this year so far because he hasn't done much in any of the others. It's a low bar, right? At least it definitely was at least it was definitely his best running game. So look, it did look to me, if I'm being honest with you, I thought that he looked a touch more confident than he has. I think he might be building. I don't know, maybe the slightest bit. Doesn't mean it's acceptable where he's at for the money he's on. He's not doing anything in that side of things. Everyone wants to see more from him, but he at least started to look a little more confident in his running game. It's the most meters he's put on this year so far. That kicked for Sean Lane. Let's see more of that. We know what he can do. So I'm hoping when Mitch is back, we have him and Dylan both playing together. That sparks his creativity, they start to work together again and stuff like that. And we hope go from there. I think for now, it's a waiting game. And I think we're going to see a few more losses until then. Okay. And I'm not saying Mitchell Moses is some be all end all, God, that when he comes in, we're going to then start winning every game from there. But if we're going to win some games, we do need him on the field and we need them both to play together. That's that's where we're at.
Oh, King Gutho. Boy, do we miss you. Boy, do we miss you. Last game of the night was the Warriors 26 beating the West Tigers 24. And newsflash, the West Tigers are back into their favoured 9th position, guys. So it feels like all normality has recommenced and they're back to their famous 9th position. I don't know how they lost this one, to be honest. I felt like they were in control for a lot of this game. And even doing my 3-2-1 and stuff like that, I was almost giving them more than it's Tigers for the players. And then I realized, hang on, the Warriors won this game. So credit to Wade Egan. I thought he was massive for the Warriors and really put his best foot forward for this side. It's just a weird game. Again, credit to the Warriors. They've won this game. They're now 3 from 4 after a poor display in Vegas, funnily enough. They've come back and they've just gone on with the job and they've won ugly. They've won pretty much all their games ugly, but the thing is they're winning their games. They're looking a lot better than some of these teams at the moment who are getting all the high praise, where the Warriors are ahead of them on the ladder and they're doing it. Just keep winning games and you're a huge chance to play finals footy.
Yeah, 100%. I'd have a strong argument for game of the round here. I really enjoyed watching this one. I loved this game. I thought it was real gritty. I want to say, I'll quickly touch on your point there with the Warriors. If you can stay under the radar, it's not a bad thing. If you can stay under the radar and sort of just get those cheeky games, especially this one. This one's an important one because I don't think the West Tigers are an easy beat like they've been in the past. Not at all. I'd say West Tigers are probably where I'd say that they're my maybe second favorite, third favorite team because they live nearby to me, kind of thing. So for me, I like seeing them succeed. It's been a long time since they have, and I think it's good for us and rugby league to see them do something. But for the Warriors, this type of game, it could have gone either way, and that's the types of games you really need those wins. If you want to try and be that team in the top 8 at the end of the game, at the end of the season, you need to have those, let's sneak in a win here, let's sneak in a win there, where maybe we probably shouldn't have. And that will be very important at the end of the season. And they'll look back and go, wow, I'm glad we won that game. Tigers will be fuming. I think and I think Benji, you could see it. They panned to him a little bit, and he was fuming. And I don't think Benji'd be the type to spray. I think he'd have to give a spray. He'd have to give a spray in the sheds after that one, surely.
Yeah.
That's the type of one where you shouldn't lose.
Is that one of those performances you question Luai? The halfback of the side, he needs to get him home in that situation. I know he's still learning and going about his craft, but like he's been huge in the media in the lead up to this season, saying the reason he's gone here, he wants to be the main man, he wants to ice these games, funnily enough, and he didn't do it. He missed a couple of little things, and I think it was telling.
But yeah, he said I want to be. Not only did he say I want to be that main man kind of thing, which he did. He also said to the big bosses and stuff like that, they're the types of games where I would win. Like last year when he was in the preseason, he said he watched like the tapes and all that. We all know this, and he said, "Oh, I would have won that game. I would have won that game for you guys and stuff like that." Well, that was a really good opportunity to prove that, and it wasn't really necessarily his fault. When they scored that final try, he wasn't at fault for like missing the tackle or anything like that, and I get that it's a whole team game. But at the same time, they still had about not 8 minutes. They had a fair bit of time after that sort of happened to be able to sort of then put their own points on the board or manage the game around so they could get up there for a field goal attempt or something. And yeah, I just don't think that sort of happened. I found this has happened now twice because they've lost by 2 points in 2 separate games this year. And until Jerome learns what he needs to do to get them through those games, there's going to be more of these types of games where they're going to be real in a fight and they're just going to eke out a loss as opposed to a win, where we just talked about how important they are. If they want to play finals football, these and the first game of the round, like against the Knights, these are the games they have to win.
Yep. No, spot on. Finally, on this one, I was just Laurie Daly. I know you listen to the podcast. You're a huge fan. I've spoken to us a number of times. Just go and get the measurements for Terrell May's jersey, because if he is not an almost walk-up start now for this Origin side for game 1 for the Blues, I'm not here. Honestly, he is an absolute freak. And having him and Payne Haas in the front row for as a New South Wales fan, my mouth's watering. I cannot wait to see that. And congratulations, I'm going to call it now, on his New South Wales Origin debut.
Yeah, barring injury, mate, can you just picture it? And that, the funny thing is those two could just be our 2 props. We could have all backs on the bench because they'll just go the whole 80.
Don't need a break. No, you can have Barnett on the bench. Have Barnett coming in. That's a great man to come in if they do need an occasional break.
Wow. I hope they'll do Yo again as a prop the way they did last year. I'd like to see that again. I think he did a really good job when he just sort of simplified what he had to do, and him coming on next to those two would just be the same with Barnett. Just mate, what a substitution! All 4, that's going to be incredible. But and while Terrell May had such an incredible game, and I know you just mentioned it, so I'm going to quickly just touch on somebody else that I want to say is becoming, I reckon, very quickly a fan favorite for the club is Fanua Bole, because not only he's playing incredible, he's in good form, but very rarely do we have a player from the Tigers specifically reject offers from bigger clubs that come and try to poach him, kind of thing. It's very often the case where the Tigers lose that, and to have him reject the Storm is a massive club to reject. You're looking at premierships if you are sort of signing with them, even if you're trying to take unders to go over there, kind of thing. And to say no to them and say, "No, Tigers are the ones that got me. I want to do something with them." That's awesome, man. Like that's the sort of thing that makes a cult hero, like a club hero, cult icon, whatever you call it. And not only that is that's the loyalty side of things. He ran 18 times for 180 meters. Terrell May ran 21 times for 202 meters. They're props, man. Props shouldn't be doing that, especially not both props in a game. Maybe one. That's incredible. They both ran.
Played 69 minutes as well. 69 minutes. That's huge.
Stafford Toa got Fanua Bole by 1 run. Other than that, those 2 ran the most meters for their team. That is incredible. That's just awesome.
I agree. Shout out to Jesse and Trav as well, who laughed at me in the offseason when I said watch Fanil Pole this year because I think he's in for a huge year. So once again, boys, I'm just one-upping you with my knowledge of this great game. So just keep laughing at me. I'll just keep getting them done. That's it. A huge, huge show. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Going into great detail for a number of things, but I think it was granted. There was so many talking points. I said at the start of the podcast, show the appreciation, like, subscribe, all that jazz. You know it by now. I don't need to keep boring you with that information. But add comments and stuff as well, please, guys. It does go a long way. Add some comments. Let us know your thoughts. I know on the Tuesday night you can comment live on air, but when you are listening to this stuff, I know you can do it on podcasts as well now. Make sure you do give us a comment and get involved. Let us know either what your thoughts, what you want to hear, questions, everything. We are more than happy to answer, or slide into the DMs. Let us know you're listening and let us know your live reactions or thoughts as we are going as well. Thank you, Jakey boy. Been a big one. Go to bed. Go to sleep. We will catch you, everyone, Tuesday night for our live show. Facebook, YouTube, 8 p.m. New South Wales. 8 p.m. Queensland, 9 p.m. New South Wales time. Catch you all then. Bye-bye.